And to introduce our second technical speaker, may I call upon our Professional Enhancement Director, Engineer Oliver O. Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good afternoon, fellow engineers. Now we will proceed to our second technical webinar, Boiler Maintenance and Safety Procedure. Our technical speaker was born in Tanawan City, Batangas, Philippines, and currently resides in Banlic, Cabuyao, Laguna. He was graduated from Colegio de San Juan de Letran with a degree of PS Mechanical Engineering in 1994. He is a registered mechanical engineer and professional mechanical engineer. Also a regular member, Saudi Council of Engineers, and newly passed ASEAN engineer. He is also a member of Toastmaster International since 2008 and received Silver Tongue Award for the winning of 9 speech contest out of 10 during business meeting. He became president on 2011, 2012, and received 4 major awards: Distinguished Toastmaster, International Award, President Toastmaster Award, Competent Leadership Award, and Competent Toastmaster Award. He is also a member of Sphinx Shotokan Karate-Do International year 2000 and compete in different category till he become a 3-time champion in black belt open weight competition last 2004, 2005, and 2006, and become instructor since 2007 to present. He is also PSME WRSA JC Prudential Award for 3 consecutive years, 2008, 2009, and 2010. He received the Outstanding Mechanical Engineer Awardee last 2012. He is presently working with Marine Services Company Ltd as Senior Sales Service Specialist and Solution Provider for rotating static equipment. He have a 10 years well experience in maintenance and repair boiler, with a total of 23 years experience in KSA. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give him a round of applause, our second speaker, Engineer Crisostomo C. Ortiz, PME.
Thank you very much, Engineer Oliver, for a very warm introduction. And to all PSME WRSA members and guests, welcome to our 17th annual conference. And guys, sorry for the presentation, because in my previous presentation, it is supposed to be boiler maintenance and safety, but unfortunately, my presentation was hacked. So I'm going to present to you also the boiler, but I will try to make it also in maintenance and safety. Fellow mechanical engineers, as we know that boiler is one of the most important equipment, especially in the refinery, in the hotels, in hospitals. So I'm going to discuss to you the boiler basic classification, boiler basic system, and boiler accident and operator responsibilities. But first, let me tell you what is about boiler. Boiler is a closed vessel in which the fluid is heated. The fluid does necessarily boil. The heated vaporized fluid exists the boiler for the virus process or the heating application, including water heating, central heating, And as a mechanical engineer, we should also know what is the classification of the boiler and what is boiler all about, because most of the time we are only dealing with the design, we are dealing with the consultancy, but sometimes we forget that the basic requirement that we need to know is only in our fingertips. Let's say, for example, in boiler, this is one of the most important equipment, as I've said previously, because it provides steam. Without steam, you know what will happen in the power plant? Without steam, without water, what will happen in the hospital? What will happen in the hotels? So boiler is important equipment in our field. What is boiler classification? Boiler type is determined by the relationship of water and the fire. And when we are in college, we only discuss that we have only two types of boiler, which is fire tube boiler and water tube boiler. But when times come, it becomes a three classification of the boiler. But before we proceed, let us discuss what is the fire tube boiler. It is obviously fire tube boiler, the water around the tubes. Water tube boilers waters in the tube and fire around the tubes, and the sectional sectional boilers, water in the section and the fire around the section. Sorry for the interruption, because actually this is not the correct presentation as I have said. And we are going to discuss now the type of the boilers. We have a fire tube boilers, we have a water tube boilers, we have package boiler, we have fluidized bed boiler, stoker pipe boiler, pulverized fuel boiler, waste heat boiler, and nuclear steam boiler. And I just want to emphasize that classification of boiler is different than the types of boiler. Okay, this is the example of electric boiler, which is the portable. If you can see, the water goes inside from this portion, and then the cold water, and this tube, that is the tube that you can see inside the boiler, and this is only for the electric boiler. But if you can see from the big boilers, especially in the power plant, you can see that there is a big buildings that the boilers will operate on that. But in the small factory, let's say for example in Nestle or in Gandour, you can see that the boiler is only in one place, that separated in the power plant or in the plant. There is a small house that you can see that there is a smoke from outside, that is called the boiler. And in that case, you can easily identify whether it is fire tube boiler and water tube boiler. As I discussed previously, that the fire tube boiler, the fire is inside the tube and the water is around the tube. And what does it mean that the fire tube boiler? It means that the fire is inside the tube and the water is surrounding the tube. That is the one who's heating this tube boiler to produce the steam. Compared to water tube, the water is inside the tube and the fire is around the tube, which is also the same purpose, producing steam and hot water, especially in hospital, especially in the hotel and factory and refineries. This is one of the complete configuration of the fire tube boiler. It is a multi-tubular vertical fire tube boiler having a number of horizontal fire tubes. T is the modification of a simple vertical boiler where the heating surface has been increased by means of number of tubes. And in here, you can see the parts of the boiler. We have a shell, we have a crate, we have a firebox, we have a flue pipe, we have a fire tubes, combustion chamber, chimney, and manhole. This is all the parts of the boiler that you can see, and we can discuss it later about the parts of the boiler. In the fire tube boiler, it is the same as water tube boiler, but the configuration the image shows is the simplest form of an internal fire vertical fire tube boiler. It does not require heavy foundation, and it requires very small floor area. This is the advantage and disadvantage of fire tube and water tube boiler. And also, the parts will be a cylinder shell, a cross tube, furnace or firebox, the crate, the same, fire door, chimney or stack. The chimney, if you can see from in here, there is a labeled chimney and manhole from where the persons will go inside during the maintenance, and also the pit. Fire tube boiler. We have classification also. We have a simple vertical boiler like Cochrane. We have locomotive boiler, Lancashire boiler, and Cornish boiler. Of course, in the fire tube boiler, we have relatively small steam capacity, which is around 12,000 kilogram per hour, and the 3,500 to 35,000 bar per hour, which is equivalent to 120 pounds per hour, and 120 boiler horsepower to 1,200 boiler horsepower. Low to medium steam pressure up to 18 kg per centimeter squared, which is equivalent to 350 psig. Operates with oil, gas, or solid fuels. 2, 3, and 4 pass design, constant pressure with a wide the classification based on the pressure. We have a low pressure boiler under 20 kilogram per centimeter squared. We have only 3 classification. The second one, the medium pressure boiler, which is around to 20 to 75 kilogram per centimeter squared. And the third one is the high pressure over 75 kg per centimeter squared. This is the complete drawing or the complete specification of the fire tube boiler. If you can see from the top, the pulley trim with control and pipings, and the front there is a smoke box from where you can see the smokes, and the UL listed burners from you can have the first fire, the second fire, and the fully automated processor. Okay, we have a rear smoke box also from the right, and we have a wet back turnaround, and we have a fire side one-way access. This is mostly the package type, but we're not go. Okay, let's go to boiler classification. Boiler classification is heating boiler provides steam or hot water for buildings and heat. Process boiler, often called power boilers or industrial boilers provide steam or high temperature hot water for uses in manufacturing, power generation, and etc. etc. And as we discussed previously, I would like to discuss to you the system of the boiler. In the system of the boiler, we have consists of feed water system, fuel system, drop system, and steam system. What does it mean, feed water system? One thing I can assure you, that boiler cannot produce steam without water. Obviously, it is impossible that I can provide you the steam without water. Boiler, it will not work also without water. That's why feed water system is very important in the system of the boiler. And the second one, we have a fuel system. Fuel system, when you say fuel system, it is a combustible product system inside the secondary boiler. And the drop system primary combustion air movement from inside system to move the maximum heat transfer for the combustion. And the steam system, it is includes with the piping, the valves, the heat exchanger you use in the steam, like steam trap and make up fresh water. That is the 4 steam boiler system that we are discussing for now. And in boiler system, we have also a hot water boiler system. It consists of make-up water system, hot water piping system, fuel system, and drop system. What does it mean by make-up water system? The make-up water system, it is the one who circulated the water inside the system to transfer the heat to enough building and a closed system from the boiler. And the hot water piping system, it is the system, this distribution to transfer the hot water to the load of the boiler. And at the same time, we have also a fuel system. The fuel system, it is the one, the combustible product in the system inside the boiler. Of course, without this make-up water system, hot water system, fuel system, and the drop system, the boiler, it will not work properly. Let's go to now to the boiler accident. The history of boilers is populated with death and destruction, but with the advent of written boiler, construction code, and automatic controls, just over 100 years ago, the rate of boiler accident has dropped substantially. There are still boiler accident, must estimate, place the numbers of boiler incident involving property damage, injury, death, and approximate number per year. Actually, that's why PSME, or what they call the ASME, they created their own boiler as standard boiler, so the accident will be avoided. And in here, the history of the boiler, I have not mentioned the number. It is almost 2,000 boiler exploded per year in the whole world. It is the number approximate only. I can show it to you in my next presentation. That's why the ASME created the boiler basic and the safety for boiler. Operator responsibilities for boiler safety. Of course, when you have a boiler in your factory or in the refinery or in the power plant, the operator should have responsibilities, or he should know what is the responsibilities being the boiler operator. What is the number one responsibilities? Maintain the normal operating level of the boiler. It is one of the most important to know what is the level of your boiler, because if the level of your boiler less than the half in the pressure gauge, you need to add the water on it. That's why there is what you call the make up water system. Second, never add water to a hot boiler when the water level cannot be determined. It is obviously, even in normal procedure, don't ever add hot water into the cold water. What will happen? The chimney or the what do you call this? The drum of your boiler will have a thermal reaction, and this will be the cause of the crack of your boiler. For adding hot water into the cold water. Second, test safety and relief valves regularly in compliance with state and local codes. This is one of the most important things because the safety valves or the relief valves is the one who controls the pressure of the boiler. If the pressure will higher than the maximum design of the boiler, there is a possibility that the boiler will explode also. And the operator should know also what is this operation, what is the function of the safety or the relief valves. Follow standard operating procedure, SOP. All instruction written or verbal from the chief engineer. That's why, as a mechanical engineer, we should know what is the boiler operation and maintenance and the safety. Because all the written approval, it will come from the chief engineer, which is the one who will be responsible for everything. Maintain proper steam, pressure, or water temperature. This is one of the function of the relief valve, to maintain the pressure and the water temperature. Routinely test low water fuel cuts out and feed water pump controls. It is one of the most important also to always check if your pump is working properly. If the pump is having a leaking, you should change the parts of the pump so it will be or it will feed the water correctly to your boiler. 7. Routinely blow down the water column, water gauge, side glass, and dry cap. You always required to have a blow down of the water column of the boiler, especially if this is producing steam. So normally it is once a week or every time that there will be a maintenance, you need to have a blow down for this water column. Maintain the burner according to manufacturer's recommendation. Maintain proper fuel oil temperature or gas pressure. This is also one of the most important for the boiler operator to know the maintenance of the fuel temperature, if it is becoming high or if it is becoming low. If the temperature of the fuel becoming high, meaning to say that you need to add or there is a malfunction in the boiler, especially if this gas pressure. Record fuel consumption regularly. Yes, it is important also to record the fuel consumption regularly. Maintain optimal feed water temperature. As we discussed previously, that the feed water temperature should be maintained. It should not be add hot water into the cold water or vice versa, cold water to the hot water. Number 12, record make-up water consumption regularly. Of course, it is obviously, it is for the records from the chief engineer and to the management. Monitor and record the stock temperature. It is also very important because in the stock temperature, if this stock temperature increase, it means that there is a locomotion between the FGD, the flue gas desulfurization. This is the composition of the oil, the chemicals that comes out in the stock of our boiler. If you can see, if the boiler stocks the stocks or the color of this smoke is black, it means that the boiler is not working properly. Then if it is the color of the stocks or the smoke is white, mean to say that you are producing a good quality of this thing. Maintain control of the boiler at all times. Yes, it is very important to maintain the control of the boiler at all times. And also this is one of the responsibility of the boiler operator for our safety. Maintain the boiler room log, record all appropriate data and documents any usual or conditions. One of the most important for the boiler is the record appropriate data and documents as usual in the conditions. Actually, as our previous presenter previously, there is safety log out and tag out. In boiler also, there is a log out and tag out that we're going to discuss it later on. Preventive maintenance. Of course, boiler room care, it is always required to maintain the cleanliness inside the boiler and the 10 steps of reliable boiler operation, baselining, and boiler log sheet. It is also related to preventive maintenance. So you will make sure that the boiler will be safety and working properly according to the required steam in our power plant or in our plant. Preventive maintenance of the boiler. In section 6 and section 7 of ASME, the Boiler and Pressure Vessel Code, provide the rules and guidelines for care and operation of boiler. And it says that the process or repair of the boiler provide ASME definition for the high pressure maximum level of 15 psi for the degree of 160 degrees centigrade. And another term is for the power boiler manufacturers. And as per the ASME code of boiler, the high temperature maximum level of 15 psi and lower pressure of 160 degrees centigrade and hot water for 160 degree psi and below 250 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the design coming from the section 6 and section 7 of the ASME boiler code. Boiler manufacturers use this information in developing their preventive maintenance procedure prescribed in the boiler manual. Use of the manual should be the first step in creating the preventive maintenance of the boiler. Preventive maintenance, we have 10 steps of reliable boiler maintenance. First, you should know your equipment. Consult the manual provided with the boiler and auxiliary equipment and contact the manufacturer for further information if necessary. Regardless of size, every facility needs a standard operating procedure or SOP manual in the boiler. Boiler log sheet is also important in the preventive maintenance. So you can record all what happening inside and outside this boiler room, what chemicals you put, what is the temperature required, which is very important. You need also to log or put in your logbook what is the condition of the pumps, what is the condition of the relief valves, how many concentration of chemicals you put in the water of the boiler. Maintain accurate and complete records of service, repair, and replacement of all boiler rooms components such as pumps, as I discussed, motor, belts. This information can be stored on a simple record card on a computer database. Yes, it is also important to check each and every one and make sure that all the components of the boiler will be in the proper condition, especially the pumps, the motor, the valves. Monitor water consumption of the boiler system on a regular basis. A change of water consumption is often the first indication of the problems. All the systems that have a make-up water line need a make-up water meter. Monitor fuel consumption as well as consumption change in fuel consumption can be indicator or a variety of system problems. Ensure the boiler room has an adequate ventilation, insufficient air lead, and incomplete combustion and unburned and waste fuel. Watch the sign of negative pressure in the boiler room. Mostly, if the air and fuel ratio in the boiler is not 100%, they will be the boiler or will produce the unburned and waste fuel or the waste fuel that will provide a carbon in the boiler. And in that case, the boiler have a malfunction or not in good condition. That is the cause of the explosion of our boiler. Proper maintain boiler room electrical system. Keep electrical equipment clean and dry to prevent nuisance electrical failures. It should be also very important to keep the electrical equipment in clean and dry. And in our standard procedure, electrical equipment should be or not contaminated with water. That's why the chemicals or the spray that we are using in electrical should be written for what you call the pass dry for cleaning the electrical equipment, especially inside the boiler which is having a high temperature and high pressure. The general housekeeping of the boiler rooms indicates the level of pride and professionalism of the boiler room staff. A dirty, cluttered, disorganized boiler room is a hazard to the safe and proper operation of the boiler. Clean it, keep it clean and neat and orderly. One of the most important inside the boiler is the cleanliness. Of course, we have discussed before the 5S. We can apply also inside the boiler room this 5S. We need to identify, we need to segregate the parts, we need to segregate or the equipment which is included inside the boiler room. Safety first and always follow approved safe work practices in the around the boiler and boiler room. Using OSHA is produced by for lockout and tag out that was mentioned previously by our speaker. It is also important to have this lockout and tag out in the boiler operating room. Preventive maintenance baselining system establish a record of the system normal operating characteristics. Done when the system is operating correctly. The baselining starting point will be the service technician determine system malfunction. Collecting system data for the baseline help the service technician become familiar with the system operating characteristics. In the baselining, you should see this manufacturer of the equipment, type of the system, whether it is a steam, hot water, or heat process. The nameplate information is also important in the boiler because in the maintenance, especially the contractor, they will tell you what is the nameplate or what is the model number of your boiler, what is the manufacturer of your boiler, what is the surface area, the type of the fuel you're going to use, the maximum allowable working pressure of the boiler, the serial number, the date of manufacturer, and the capacity based on the design pressure of the boiler. This is one of the most important features that you can have in your boiler. Temperature and pressure reading should be taken throughout the system during normal operation for comparison with the troubleshooting. Preventive maintenance, baseline data collection, auxiliary equipment, type and purpose, manufacturer, model number, location in the system. And in the controls, All safety and operating controls should be tested during the baselining process. Record information such as control type, manufacturer, model number, etc. and etc. For the piping system, as I discussed previously, for the draw a system piping diagram, not all the controls and all components also. The log sheet are crucial part of the boiler room maintenance program. Log sheet can be obtained from most boiler insurance companies and many boiler manufacturers. The log sheet is this webinar may be requested in the PDF format by contacting this our boiler manufacturer. This is the format of the boiler log sheet. If you can see from here, it's slightly blurred, but the safety relief valves, the water coolant, the locum, the baselining, and then a lot of procedure here, and the month is from January, February, March up to December. Everything, all the information that you need to put, it should be in the log sheet of our boiler, and it should be, let's say, for example, you are the operator of the boiler, or you have a shipment in the company, it should be turned over to the next ship of the from the first ship to the second ship of the operator of the boiler. Combustion efficiency, no, combustion efficiency. Calculating the combustion efficiency. Calculating the combustion efficiency. No, this is the equipment that you're going to use when you are making this combustion efficiency of the boiler, and the combustion efficiency of fuel consumption. This is what, as I discussed before, the stock temperature should be maintained. And this is the CO2, okay, and the O2, it should be 14.1 in the temperature of 300. And if you can see, from the temperature of 300 to 600, okay, the CO2, it is varies upon the temperature of the stock. This is the combustion efficiency of the fuel. That's why in the previous discussion, we need to know the temperature of our stock because of the mixture of the FGD, the flue gas desulfurization. You can see whether the boiler is working properly based on the smoke on your stock. And this is the combustion efficiency of the natural gas. If you can see from here in the previous, it is the combustion efficiency percentage of the fuel, and here this is the combustion efficiency for the natural gas from 10.7 to 8, the CO2, and the temperature up to 500 to 75. The combustion efficiency varies upon the temperature limit or the high temperature of the stock. The combustion of efficiency approximate burner, if you can see the burner type, the stock temperature, CO2 over fire drop. For the gas atmosphere, the temperature up to 325 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, the CO2 range up to 7 to 9%. And the ppm, it should be higher than 100. And the power or the gas power burner, the temperature stock is 275 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit. The O2 or the CO2 must be over 100 ppm. For the emission, yeah, though emission have been regulated since the first Clean Air Act of 1963, the Clean Air Act amendments in 1990 expanded greatly the role of the government in protecting the environment. In Title I, Clean Air Act amendments of 1990 is very important. The ozone or the sulfur dioxide and the carbon monoxide is particulates, and the nitrogen dioxide is the lead, which is the composition of the smoke in your stocks. Water treatment, I think no need to discuss this chemistry of water treatment. This is for the American Boiler Manufacturer Association has determined certain water treatment control limits for most common water chemistry program. This is the control limits, the ABMA, boiler water control limits. In the boiler operating pressure for 3.5 bars, the total dissolved solids, which is very important, is ppm, means parts per million is around 2,500. The total alkalinity should be 500, and of course, the suspension solid should be 0. And for the 900 to 1,000 psi, or the pressure of 70 bars, you should get the result of 625 ppm, which is the parts per million. For total dissolved solids and total alkalinity is 125. And of course, the total suspended solid should be 1 only. And this is the control limit for the boiler water control system. System cleaning, no need to discuss this one. Water chemistry, national station company. Section of water vendor, vendor accountability, water chemistry. Okay, let's go for the last part of the presentation, which is the soot blower. What is a soot blower connected to the boiler? The soot blower is a device for removing the soot that is deposited on the internal furnace tubes of a boiler during combustion to prevent plugging of the gas passes and maintain boiler efficiency. Which is this equipment you cannot see in the small boiler. You can see this equipment only in the big boiler, let's say, for example, in the refinery or in the Saudi electric company here or in the power plant. Because as you have seen here, the function of this soot blower is to remove the soot inside the boiler. I have actually the video, but unfortunately, I cannot run this video due to malfunction of this laptop. And we have two types of soot blower. The long retractable soot blower, this is the picture, this is the long retractable, and the other one is the fixed soot blower. The long retractable, it goes to the inside the tube of the boiler, and it will run with the steam, and the steam is circulating inside the tube of the boiler that will clean the soot, the rust, and the chemicals that passes on this tube of the boiler. Why we use soot blower in our boiler? Yes, this is a good question. It is to reduce the efficiency. The soot deposited on the heating surface of the boiler acts as a heat insulator. The result is that less heat is transferred to the water to raise steam, and more heat is wasted up to the chimney. This leads to the higher fuel consumption and poor steaming. That's why we always recommended, and the boiler should always having this soot blower, as we discussed previously, that it will be the result of the high consumption of the fuel and the poor steam that the boiler is producing. Soot fires can be damaging a boiler because it can cause localized hotspot occur in the tubes. Soot blower reduces the risk of soot fires, the resulting damage. One of the most important parts of the boiler is the valve. Why? Valve is a device that regulates, direct control the flow of a fluid. The classification by actuation method, we have a manual, pneumatic, electric, hydraulic. We have a crucial for sealing method. By steam motion, we have a linear, we have a rotary, and the function. We have on and off, and the control valve that we are using in our boiler. This is one of the most important parts of the boiler because it controls the pressure, it controls the flow of the water also inside our boiler room. Valve types by actuation. You can see from the picture, we have a manual and we have a motor operated, we have an air operated. These all types of boiler valves are used in the boiler, but you cannot see this, let's say motor operated and or operated boiler. You can see only this one mostly in the power plant and in the oil and gas. Valve sealing issue. If you can see this type of equipment, why this guy is using this key? Because the packing is acting like a brake in the steam. Because the consequences harder to open and close the valves. That's why it is very important to have a good sealing devices also that you are using in the equipment of your boiler. It is for your or for our safety of our operator in our boiler. This is the valve live loading that we are going to use in the valves. Okay, the valve live loading solve this problem by installing energy storing spring assembles. This is the complete parts of the valve live loading that you can use in the valves. So the valves will be 100% work in 5 years time without any leak, and the valve should be hydro test before using this valve live loading. This is one of our equipment that mostly we are using in the power plant, the valve live loading assemblies. You can see that this is spring, the inner guide, and the end washer. When you are purchasing the valve, it should not be included in the valve. The valve will be composed only in the sealing devices, especially the gland packing. But in the live loading, you cannot see this one, especially in the small valve. You can see this valve live loading only in the air-operated and motor-operated valves. Thank you very much. That's it for the meantime. And as we are always saying, excellence is the result of caring more than other think is wise. Risking more than other think is safe. Dreaming more than other think is practical, and expecting more than other think is possible. Thank you very much, and this is the last of my presentation.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jenny, any question from the group? You may ask any question about boiler operation and maintenance while PP Chris is still here.
Sorry, it's not the original presentation actually. I prepare much better than this presentation with video also, but unfortunately, it's not working in any of our computer here in the head office. Even the press Andre, they give it up. It's not working in this presentation.
Send mo na lang yung PowerPoint.
There is always a second time. Next year.
Yes, for sure, inshallah.
Okay. Thank you, Engineer, for a very informative presentation and for sharing your experience. And to present the plaque of appreciation, we call upon our chapter secretary, Engineer Jose Melvin Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Philippine Society of Mechanical Engineers, Western Region, Saudi Arabia, Jeddah Chapter, presents this plaque of appreciation to Crisostomo C. Ortiz, PME, PSME WRSA JC Council of Past Presidents, in grateful recognition and profound appreciation of his unselfish dedication, support, and invaluable contribution for being the technical speaker on boiler maintenance and safety procedure during the Chapter's 17th Annual Conference and General Membership Meeting, first virtual annual conference, given this 4th day of December 2020 via virtual conferencing. Signed, Alvin Allison D. Lango, Chapter President. Signed, Roselier A. Unsay Jr., Vice President, Internal Affairs and Conference Chairman. And signed, John Ray O. Madla, Committee on Awards and Recognition Chairman. There you go, PP Crisostomo Ortiz. Accept our simple token of recognition. Back to you, moderator.
Yes, thank you very much, Engineer Melvin.